Hey everyone, this is Danielle. Welcome to the close. It's good being back. I was pretty sick last week, so sorry about that. Just kind of pieced out, but I am back and I'm here. It was a pretty unfortunate week to be sick when we got this kind of big market pullback. Hey Danielle, fire up for the close. We need one of your magical SPX trades. Glad you're back and feeling better. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, just slowly getting back to it here. But I missed all of you guys. Thanks for everybody that covered for me. All right. So I haven't put on any trades since I got back. And, I'm definitely looking for something here. Hopefully, there's going to be a good move at the end of the day here. I think that, today overall, things have looked a little bit better than they looked yesterday, mainly because we have the wick on the bottom of the candle in the S&P now. So you can see that there's a pretty big wick right there, which is the first sign that buyers are coming in. If you look at the squeeze, the squeeze has obviously shown some negative momentum here. Um, but that can still flip. The volume can start coming in, it can bounce at the 100 simple. It hasn't broken the October low, which is a good sign. So for those reasons, um, you know, it could look worse. Admittedly, this is a bigger pullback than what we've seen for the vast majority of the year, except for this move right here with the tariff tantrums, right? So, symmetrically speaking, we are, definitely breaking down more than most of these other pullbacks. But at the same time, I mean, all hope is not lost. So if we throw a symmetry level on right here, you can see that we're holding like pretty much perfect symmetry from this pullback right there. So if you look at the lower time frame charts, what you will see is that we are kind of starting to shift. We are starting to see some buying. We do have a 15-minute squeeze on the lower time frame chart. So when you're looking at that, you know, could look worse. There's some buyers coming in. We'll see if we can get a short covering rally at the end of the day, especially because the put call ratio was higher today. If you look at the 1 hour chart, we have a squeeze here too, and this time frame hasn't shifted. But overall, I would say that it's pretty close to firing to the upside. The 30-minute time frame has shifted, and when I say shifted, I mean it's gone from red to yellow to green to light green. So I think that there's some good signs here that we're starting to see a little bit of a shift. If we look at the put call ratio, I noticed that somebody posted on my Twitter feed that the 10-day moving average of the put call ratio was at 0.9, which is great. This is the grid that I've been using for a long time, and it doesn't actually have the exact 10-day moving average that whoever that was that posted. And I know that's the one that John uses. I really like this one because this one gives an intraday view of kind of what the put call ratio is doing. And so the reason why I like this one is because it helps with those end of day trades. So especially when the market is volatile, being able to see like what people are doing with the puts and the calls on an intraday basis on a 5-minute chart is helpful, but it is going to be different than, like the 10-day moving average, which is meant to be more of like a swing indicator. So when you're looking at this one in particular, basically, this is Monday, this one is Tuesday, this one is Friday. So what you will see today is that the put call ratio spiked up pretty high this morning. So that's because, the market fell overnight. And so people wake up and they're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Market fell again. Let me buy some puts. So the puts spiked up, spiked up, spiked up. But once it got up above that level, 0.9, um, And that's when it started reversing, right? So then what you'll see is that you see short covering. So as the put call ratio is going lower throughout the day, that's when the indexes are starting to kind of pick up speed. So for this last, 50 minutes of the session, the question is, okay, is this just going to like drop off a cliff here? That would be, short covering. That would be a short covering rally that we could buy at the end of the day. Yesterday, what you will see is that there was no short covering. There was just people were just buying puts, buying puts, buying puts, buying puts, buying puts, buying puts. Um, so this is generally the one that I use. If you look, and if you go back over the last 10 days, I mean, you can see that for the most part, you've kind of been around the point 0.7 area on average. However, there have been a lot of these dips down into the point 0.4, point 0.5. So, I mean, I would say overall, people buy calls when the market pulls back, but when it pulls back a little bit more than what it has been doing, which is what it did this time, we love to look for a short covering rally at the end of the day, but people have to actually be short to get a short covering rally. Does that make sense? So I think that as far as at least the put call ratio goes, it does look like it's high enough to get a little bit of a short covering rally here at the end of the day. But in order for that to happen, those short sellers have to actually feel like, hey, you know, we should get out because it's not going to go lower. That's the main component of the short covering rally. So if we look at the indexes and just say, all right, what's going on here? Is there any level that we can use? And I think the most important thing today is that the S&P has recovered to basically the opening swing high. So this is the overnight session right here, and this is the cash session right here in black. And so this very first candle of the day, um, it traded up into 66.79 before it rolled. So that's the high of the cash session. And what you'll see is that the market's had a really difficult time getting through that level. So that's a major resistance zone. Um, if that level breaks to the upside, that's going to be a perfect spot for a short covering rally. So if we can get up above 66.80, I would definitely buy, bullish butterfly and the 0 DTE SPX. However, doesn't really look that great right now, but it's only 12:09 Pacific time. Now, if you look at the ticks, this is a major component here. In order for a short covering rally to come through, we would want to see ticks up into the plus 600, staying up at that zone and then, continuing up at that zone. We don't just want one spike and roll over. That would be a one tick wonder. So this right here is the NYSE ticks. This measures the buying and the selling pressure overall in the overall stock market. So in the NYSE, so it's not an individual stock. This right here is going to be the S&P futures. So I like to use the S&P futures on a 5-minute chart just to kind of gauge direction during the day. I haven't traded futures for a long time. I did used to trade a lot of futures. Then I just got a little bit more into trading the 0 DTE SPX. One could argue, you know, for both sides, one may be easier than the other. It's just kind of how I have grown over time, I guess. Futures are, I would say futures are a little bit easier in some respects just because you only have to buy or sell. You don't have to try to figure out, should I do a butterfly? Should I do a spread? What should my expiration be? It's just buy or sell, right? But they do tend to move kind of pretty quickly. So it just depends what your personality is like. It might be a little bit too stressful or too much to trade S&P futures or NASDAQ futures. This is the NASDAQ futures. So What I do to determine direction at the end of the day is I always have this on one grid. I'm not really a day trader, but I do day trade the close. I don't sit around and day trade all day long, but I will trade the close. So anyways, this one right here, pretty similar. You have a major resistance zone, 24,833. Um, we're just gonna see, guys. We'll see if we get a trade here at the end of the day. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this up on my other monitor and go back to the higher time frames. Um, I mean, obviously, overall, we're kind of in a downtrend here, but we're going to see if we get any kind of reversal today. Now, if you look at the NASDAQ on the daily chart, I think that the worst indicator here is the fact that we have broken down below the 50 simple and stayed there. So that's not looking very good. Typically, when we break below the 50 simple, you're looking for more downside ahead. I would say that it's better that we have at least a hold of this October low. If that October low breaks, then we're probably looking for a flush down all the way down into 23,500. So um, we will see if that low holds or not. But I think that what's really going to matter here is that a lot of these Magnificent Seven stocks are just not doing very well. So we need to have really at least four of them, if not five, have some really good buying pressure in order for the NASDAQ to trade higher. And then also the semiconductors just really need to be on board. If you're looking at Microsoft right here, I mean, I love Microsoft. I'm still holding my shares, obviously, but this is just not good. It's down 2.65%, $494. We've broken through the 50 simple, and that was a while ago. That was on November 4th. So it's broken through that level. It hasn't been able to get back through it. It retested it. It failed at that resistance zone, hasn't been able to hold 500, and now it's down even more than the NASDAQ. So this is a really important stock. Um, I just, as a general rule, I don't really come in here and short Microsoft. I do kind of prefer to follow the trend, but that being said, it does not look like a buy yet to me. So you have a 195-minute squeeze, and if you're looking for some more continuation to the downside, 480 is going to be your next strike. So and that would bring you all the way back into where you were in June. So um I don't know that I really want to short that, but I'll give you Meta as an example because Meta is another stock that I like a lot, but then what happened is it just basically got destroyed after earnings. So, you have to be aware of when the trend changes and if it's a good opportunity to buy, um, or if you should bail or even switch sides. It's not very common for me to take a stock where I'm like constantly trading it to the upside and then start shorting it just because I trade a lot of relative strength stocks. And so um, generally, the relative strength stocks are going to rally once the market starts going back up. But this is why this chart is really important to look at because this is an example of a chart that's just totally broken. So when it broke the 50 simple, that was no good, right? So the yellow line on my charts is the 50 simple, broke through here. It tried to recover. Everything was looking better before earnings. But then, unfortunately, when it got hammered after earnings and it got stuck below the 200 simple, this was bad. So, this is a technical signal that I will use to come in and short stocks if I want to switch sides on them. And this is a signal that's occurring right now on many different charts. So, if you look at the way that this broke the 200 simple, then you had high volume selling for days on end. This is a pattern that we want to look for. Now, with Meta at this point, it's at the $600 strike price. So that is a key psychological value. Ideally, it can hold after 2 weeks of downside action. Um, if it can't hold though, you're looking at like 550. So that doesn't look very good. Um, Netflix is looking better today, but Netflix is also one that has broken below the 50 simple and the 200 simple. So, when you have these three main names, I mean, they are really important NASDAQ names, right? So that brings you to, okay, what stocks in the NASDAQ could cause the rally to the upside? Well, we have Apple that's doing really well. We have a lot of relative strength here. This one was a relative weakness loser for a long time until it broke up above 215, 220. And that is a spot where it recovered the 200 simple. So anytime you have a stock that, is able to come back and recover a critical level like that, that will be a buy opportunity for me. I mean, you can see right here that you had a big wide range expansion candle, lots of high volume coming in. So Apple looks great. Um, we have a 195-minute squeeze on Apple. We have a 30-minute squeeze on Apple. So, if the moment to buy appears, which, you could actually argue that you could buy this now just because it's up today. It still has that trend and it has a nice clean target at the $280 price point. So for all of those things, I would say Apple actually looks pretty good. Um, so that's probably the strongest one that I have seen. I think that Broadcom still looks good overall. Let me just go ahead and take a screenshot of this chart with this setup. For this setup in particular, you could do a couple different things. You could sell, like, put credit spread at 270. You could buy a bullish butterfly targeting 275. You could buy a bullish butterfly targeting 280. I think there's a variety of different ways that you could trade this. But this is pretty much one of the only bullish tickers I have seen. Let me go ahead and turn off the extended hours here. Okay, so we do have a 30-minute squeeze on that chart too. Now, if you look at Tesla, I did get hammered on my Tesla butterfly last week when I was super sick. That was not ideal, but that's how it goes sometimes. I had a butterfly targeting $500 in Tesla, and it just didn't work. Sometimes this happens. I was trading the daily squeeze. Everything was holding up above support, and then what ended up happening was it just broke through the 50 simple and it just got hammered. So in that instance, my butterfly did expire worthless because there just wasn't really a good spot to get out of it. And when it's coming up on expiration really quickly, and there's like no intrinsic value in it, then it can lose value really quickly. So my Tesla 500 trade did not work. That expired on me last Friday. I still like the stock long-term to 500, but because it has broken down below this 50 simple right now, and because now it's hovering around 400, it's going to be a while. So once we see how this squeeze fires, I still am not convinced the squeeze is going to fire to the downside. It may. I'm still not fully convinced it'll fire to the downside. Tesla is historically like pretty bullish in November, December, and January. So I think it can recover from that pullback still, but I'm just not really seeing signs of it. So I'm out of Tesla. If it starts really reversing off of the $400 strike price, then I'll get back in it, but I just don't have a position on it for right now. Amazon. So this one had been looking really good. I don't love the way that it's breaking down below the 50 simple and below the 100 simple today. I don't love that, but I think that overall this stock has been pretty strong, and I think that it had a really phenomenal move after earnings, and I think it's just kind of pulling back after earnings. So when I'm looking at the Magnificent Seven and I'm saying, okay, is there anything in here that can carry the NASDAQ higher? It's like, well, Amazon does have a weekly squeeze. I think, in the long term, Amazon still has a pretty good chance of trading higher and ultimately up into 280 and then $300 a share. So I do still like that. I think, Apple looks pretty good. The other one, Broadcom, I still have my 2X shares on AVGO, and then I also own the shares as well. I think that this one looks pretty good right here. Again, though, it has broken below the 50 simple. So with the vast majority of these tickers, I'm not buying them yet when they're below the 50 simple, because that is a big red flag that there could be more downside ahead. However, like I showed you with that Apple chart, if and when they break up above that critical resistance zone on high volume and close up above that zone, that's when I would strike. So you can just go back to this Apple chart, and Apple was a little bit worse for the wearer. So not only was it below the 50 simple is the yellow line on my chart. So if you go back and say, okay, when was the 50 simple buy? The 50 simple buy was on June 30th at $202 a share. But this one was a little bit worse for the wearer because it was also below the 100, which is the teal line, and the 200. When you're below the 200, that is just a rough place to be because it's a critical resistance zone. So the secondary buy would have been the break up above the 200 simple, yes, and on the daily chart, and that would have been at 220. So that's the setup that I'm looking for in all of these stocks right now. I haven't taken any buys. Yes, Google does still look good. So Google and Apple, if you're going to buy anything, those two are the ones. So if the market does reverse tomorrow, rally higher, those would be the first two that I would be interested in trading on my list. You have a pretty clean price target here at the $300 strike price in Google. So there's a couple different things you could do. You could do like a $300 butterfly. You could sell the put credit spread at 285. There's a couple different things you could do, or also just hold the stock. I just hold the stock in this one. So I think those probably look the best. Broadcom, like I said, it does have the squeezes. It does have the earnings report coming up, but it's got to get up above that $350 price point. Now, it's getting to the moment in time where I'm looking for an end of day SPX trade. So I'm going to pull this back over to the main grid. It is important to go over those Magnificent Seven stocks, because the thing is if they are, if they're all getting hammered, like there's not a very good likelihood for a rally into the end of the day. As far as the VIX is concerned, the VIX is a big sign that things are there, that there is more downside ahead. The VIX spiked up into 25, which is the biggest VIX spike we've seen for a long time. It has come down slightly, but you can see that since I have started talking, it's just been climbing higher. So when you're looking for an end of day trade, you definitely want to watch the VIX to see which way it's trending, and it's going up. Now, we're also seeing some selling coming in here, but on top of that selling, you're seeing this critical zone of support, which is just breaking. So we've basically failed at the high on the day. And now we're also breaking through this ledge right here and this ledge right here. And we're getting some pretty good selling with the ticks down at -800. So Let's see here. Still about 4 minutes early. Generally, I look the last 30 minutes of the session to see which direction we're going, because a lot of the time when you get right on the dot at 12:30 Pacific time, a lot of the time it can reverse at that time frame. So that's why I generally don't enter the trade until that time. Lily is good. Any thoughts on Shop? What about MSTR, DLO? Hey, UC, how's it going? Missed you in Austin. Dead cat bounce today, more downside tomorrow. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's see, IBM. Okay, IBM was literally one of the only good charts that I saw today. So I think that makes sense. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Let me see if I have any other requests. Coin. What about crypto pairs? The best trade is a stiff drink, Sam. Problem is you have to babysit futures. Yeah, you have to sit there and be pretty but I mean, they can also break pretty hard pretty fast and you can make a lot of money doing it. So that's the the main benefit there. Let me just look at the SPX. So 6,600 is definitely a big key psychological value. I don't know that we would fall that far today, but I think it's possible. You're at 66.34. Still have another 32 minutes. We're breaking pretty good. So, I mean, you could try for a lotto trade at 6,600. Let's just wait another like 3 minutes to see if this selling reverses at all. But I would just say in general, it does not appear as though we're getting any kind of short covering quite yet. So do not see the shorts covering. So let's see here. So you definitely have a good amount of open interest there. Right now, we have a 16-point expected move into the end of the day. And, you're trading right at now bouncing up into 66.38. So within the expected range, you have 66.50. If we did end up getting just like a little bit of a bounce here, a butterfly at 66.50 could work. Not really seeing a bounce yet, but that is a key psychological value, and that is a key area to watch. 6,600 would be like if we just get hammered going into the close. I also think that, you could probably use 6,600 as like a hedge tomorrow. And then I don't really see anything else. I mean, you do have 6,620. So if we start getting some more selling, I think 6,620 is a pretty decent spot to target just because it is within the expected range. So you have the expected range of 16 points. 6,620 is right within that range. So that's like a reasonable target for the end of the day if we can continue to get downside. The more lotto target would be all the way down here at 6,600. And then the potential bounce, I would say 66.50, but I don't know that I would go higher than that. Maybe 66.60 if we start getting a bunch of ticks. But so far right now, not really seeing anything in the way of consistent ticks. What you need for a good end of day trade is you need You just need some sort of consistency. So we did have the ticks spike down into -800, -900, but then it just bounced right back up to +500 almost. So that's not really continual and consistent selling. However, the internals are still bearish. Fall spread is still shifting negative. Put call ratio doesn't look like it's moved too much, but I would say that there is some short covering happening there. But I think the main thing here is that the VIX is continuing to spike. So I don't know. I think it's a short. I don't think we're going to see short covering. I don't have everything aligning perfectly yet. But by the time it aligns perfectly, your entry might not be very good. So my intuition just says that I just think it's a short. So the question is, okay, well then how are you going to trade it? So you could do like sell a call credit spread in the SPX. You could do like a 66.35, 66.45, something like that. Like I said, you could do the butterfly. Looks like, let's see, that was today. So I don't think we're going to get all the way down there to the lows on the day. But yeah, like I said, 66.20 looks like a pretty good target. 6600 would be the lotto target. Let's see, watching meta here. Let me see if I can get some of your requests in. I have a bunch of requests I need to get to. And then I wanted to see Henry's note also. Okay. Microsoft pause at 495, needs 500. NVIDIA holding 180, might get 186 for a day trade tomorrow. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, all 15-minute squeezes, could be overnight trades or might have to consolidate into tomorrow morning. Hard to know which. Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's see. Any thoughts on Shop, IBM? What about SoFi? SoFi looks pretty good. Thank you. This is informative. Yeah, hope you're finding it helpful here. So let's see. IBM has a daily squeeze. The 195-minute squeeze has fired to the downside, which is not great, but you're still up above the 50, so it could definitely be worse. The 50 simple target would be at 287, so you're pretty much almost there. So I would see if it can hold that zone, but I think overall IBM looks pretty good. SoFi. So with SoFi, I think that this one looks pretty good also. But it has broken through the 50 simple. So again, I hate to be like a total broken record, but the entire purpose of following the trend is like to stay with the trend. And then when the trend is starting to break and give you red flags, that it's going lower, it's just not really a very good plan. It's just not really a very good plan to like get long, you know what I mean? So let me see if I can get something on here. I am getting some Vizio signals, which I don't really like. Just not really doing a whole lot here. Nope. So you see, I started to get this little carrot right here, which just basically means that is oversold on that time frame. So if you can see the Turbo VZO down here, you can see how this red is all the way down at the bottom of this green level. That just basically means that the S&P futures on a 5-minute chart are super oversold to the downside. Now, it can get more oversold, but when you start getting those little carrots, it's just kind of a little sign of, maybe some short covering is coming, but I'm just still not seeing anything in the way of buying at all. We've had Some ticks that have popped up here, just not really doing much. Okay, so if we did just something like just try 66.20. So as far as an end of day trade is concerned, I mean, try to do them for like $3, $4, $5 of risk. It can be better to do more than one contract just so that you can scale out. But it just kind of depends on the risk, what kind of risk parameters you have on, if you day trade and all that kind of good stuff. There's still a decent amount of time left. And, like I said, we're just not really getting anything, but I do like this one pretty decently. 66.35, 66.20, 66.05, because this is a $15 wide butterfly and it's going for $3.25. So, the max you could ever close it for would be $15 because it's $15 wide. And now, it's only going for $2.80. So I think that one's pretty decent. The other one that I had mentioned earlier would have been the upside trade into 66.50. So I was still just kind of trying to wait to see if we got any kind of positive ticks. Looks like we're getting plus 440. Come on. Plus 440 is a buy, but it's not really. I mean, it's not plus 800. It's not plus 600. It's okay. There's some buyers coming in, trying to buy, not really making a lot of progress. Can they send it higher? Can we get a reversal? Yes or no? Oh, up into 500. Okay, so this is a moment where we're going to see if this reverses or not. Okay, so we got up into 500. If it gets up there and it just rolls, that's when there's just no energy with the bulls. So it's either going to get up there and skyrocket and you get that reversal at the end of the day, or it's just going to run out of momentum. Okay, give me your requests again. Let me see if I can get to those. Not super clean here. When it breaks the 50 simple and it fails to climb back up and over the 50 simple, it's a big warning. Yes. Big warning. Vol spread tried to shift a little bit higher. Put call ratio is kind of stagnant. The VIX just kind of leveled out. Trying to get, okay, so let's see if it can go for it here. Plus 600. Did I share the put call grid before? Yeah, I've shared this grid. There's a member version that I share with the members in the trading room. I can grab it for you after the close. All right, so I'm just going to save this one for right now because I want to see if it's going to fail, if those high ticks are going to fail. And then let me just get back to some of these requests. Whenever Thinkorswim freezes on days like today, you know that there's just a lot of orders coming in right now. Come on. It's going to force me to tell you a story while I'm sitting here waiting for this thing to start working. Dun, 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 dun. Guess we could do a poll. How is everybody feeling about NVIDIA earnings? Do you have a course on credit spreads and how to buy them on Thinkorswim? So I have um, a class, I think it's called the 5-star system, and it's how to sell put credit spreads along with a trend. It was from a while ago though. It was from like 5 years ago. But I have that one on selling put credit spreads. The more recent one that I have, it's not buying debit spreads, but it's buying butterflies. So I would say that I most frequently, um, I would say that I most frequently buy butterflies rather than buying credit spreads or debit spreads. So I do have a class on selling credit spreads, which is called, I think, the 5-star system or 5-star income. And then my butterfly class is called Stack Profits. And then I have another one that includes like 4 different kinds of option strategies, and it's called the Options Freedom Formula. And that one covers how to sell credit spreads, buy debit spreads, buy butterflies. All right, so ticks just haven't been able to get anything together. Not really anything going on here. I do think that NVIDIA is going to be the most important event of the week. This one is going to be on Wednesday after the market close, so it's going to be tomorrow. I think as of right now, we're in a pretty good spot going into this report because at least it has pulled back pretty good before the report. It's a lot more difficult. It is a lot more difficult for the ticker to trade higher after earnings if it's all the way up on the highs going into the report. So I think right here now we're in a pretty decent spot. NVIDIA does have let's see. Come on. So NVIDIA has a $12.85 expected move. So, if that breaks through 180, that could potentially bring you all the way down in here into 165, 170. That would not be ideal, especially for SMH. If you look at the 50 simple, it's at 186. So, potentially if we get a move up above that level, and then it kind of breaks higher, that's what we would really want to see. So I think that all of that, I think NVIDIA looks pretty good for upside potential. I think that the main issue here is just that expectations are really high for NVIDIA. So if expectations are going to be high, I think that there is a potential that if guidance isn't as strong as what the market would like to see, then I think there's a potential that it breaks down. I think the worst case scenario for NVIDIA would be a 2x expected move to the downside. So that would be a loss of about $25. So in that case, that would be probably like my worst case scenario for the market, like a $25 move to the downside or more. But I think that as long as NVIDIA can get up above like 185, the main signal that I'm looking for right here in SMH is this daily squeeze. So SMH only has one day below the 50 simple. Um, so with that 1 day below the 50 simple, I mean, it could still recover and it could still slingshot squeeze and trade to the upside. And if we got a bullish move in SMH, I mean, that could take us all the way up into 384 and then 400. So I think overall, um, SMH still looks pretty good. Um, and then I think that um, you kind of have a situation where you gotta have a situation where AVGO still looks pretty good, but the SPX is definitely breaking down. So SPX is going now. Nothing in the way of buyers whatsoever. Have this nice big candle flush now. So you can see that you have that 6,600 level, which is right at that critical Fibonacci zone. You're down into 66.29. Haven't really been able to get above the 66.40 spot gamma strike. Is this your own trading platform? So this is Thinkorswim. It's not my platform, but all of these tools are my custom tools. Let's look at shop. So this is another one, guys, that just doesn't look very good. Got a break. It made multiple upside targets, looked great, but then it broke through the 50 simple. This was a huge candle right here, wide range expansion candle breaking down below the 50 simple and then just flush. So I would say that one needs to recover at least the 100 simple. So I think right here, like 144. If it could recover that zone, then you could target up in here at 155, 156, but just does not look very good. MSTR. I mean, this one has gotten pretty destroyed. I don't really see anything in the way of support even. 150, 175, I'd say, between 150 and 175. Bitcoin just getting kind of destroyed here. So again, another example of the 200 simple flush. You hit the 200 simple, you get this big wide range expansion candle, flush, bounce back up into the 200 simple, can't get above it, and just boom, just get destroyed. So that does not look good. Sure, it's up 1%, but that is just that's no good. I don't like trying to buy anything that has broken through a very, very critical support zone like that and just gotten destroyed. Yeah, at some point it's gonna work its way off. And at that point, um, we might be able to start buying it again, but just doesn't look like that's the time yet. All right, so we're finally getting a reversal just in time for the 252 trade. We got a spike up in the ticks up at plus 600, which was the highest tick that we've seen for a long time. But let's see if it does anything here. Just a whole lot of choppy action. Danielle, look at Palo Alto. Yeah, if you have any other tickers that you want to buy, people think NVIDIA is going to be for NVIDIA, would you open an Iron Condor? Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I can go back and look at that one again. Kind of a more quiet close than what I was anticipating here. Some small little movements, but we only short in Bitcoin. Do you know Mary, please? No. New to the channel, or are we only doing options? So I mean, I do all my analysis on the underlying stock charts and on the futures charts. Yeah, I do trade options, but I mean, I buy ETFs, I buy stocks, buy 2x ETFs. I used to trade futures a lot, but I have 3 kids now, so you know, you don't really want to be in a nail-biting futures trade just to turn around, mommy. So I don't really do that as much anymore. Most of the trades that I do are swing trades, except for the last hour of the day when I day trade. $12.69, and we have a $182 stock. So it looks like you're pricing in a 7% move on NVIDIA. So I think that selling the neutral iron fly is a pretty good idea because you can see that you had a 0.4% move, 5%, 2%, 2%, 3%, 7.5%. So I think selling the neutral iron fly makes sense. I'm going to be doing the NVIDIA earnings trades tomorrow. I'm going to be trading the close with you guys tomorrow in the trading room. I think I'm doing Charles Payne right before that. I should be anyways. Have to wait till tomorrow to get my confirmation for sure, but looks like Oracle. So, again, another one that has broken down kind of like below this 50 simple right here, broke down below the 100 simple. Now at this point, it's holding the 200 simple. If it can't hold that 200 simple, then it's definitely hosed. So Palo Alto, this used to be one of those stocks that I would just like sell credit spreads on it every single quarter over earnings. And that was something that worked out really well. And then over the course of like the last 2 years, they have not been anywhere near as consistent. So you can see they had this major 24% move, 7% move. You've only had 2 bullish moves. The stock does still have a rally going into earnings generally. Yeah, it did pull back with this most recent market pullback. But if you look at the earnings hot zone, you can see that the stats are in the 21 days before earnings up 8% on average, which is really good, pretty bullish. In the 8 days before earnings on average is up like 5%. And then this one's not very good. On average, over the last 7 quarters, it's been down almost 3% in the 8 days after earnings. So that's not very good. The main thing with this one, since it's not very consistent, you just want to look at what the market maker expected move is just to see if there's something that you can do with it here. So the market maker move is $14.59 with a $201 stock that's pricing in about a 7% move. So you just have to look at it and say, what have the moves been in the past? Do you think that it'll be around 7% or more or less? I think selling the neutral iron fly at the $200 strike price is it's a good and a reasonable trade. Because you're at a key psychological value, you're at a $100 moving, or you're at the 100 SMA. The expected move is pretty large, so I think it would make sense. I think it would make sense to just go ahead and do that. I don't know that I would want to make a directional bet on this one just because you can see that most of the time it's down after earnings. So even though I like the stock long term, I wouldn't really want to make a bullish bet on the earnings report just because you can see that it gaps down a lot, especially given the market situation right here. Danielle, can you look at MU? Have 2 minutes remaining. All right, so you should have put on the downside fly. Yeah, I was just thinking that. I'm just still, just feel like a little slow. When you're like sick for a week and you're trying to get back into it. Looks like my butterfly would have worked perfectly. I guess I'm more on top of it than I thought. But if you did get the 6620 fly, it's a perfect spot to take it off. Right now, 6620.01. You have 1 minute remaining. You could try to let it cash settle, but it can move really fast in the last minute or so. So I typically err on the side of just closing it out. But yeah, looks pretty good, like a flush down into 66.18, 66.17. I don't know that it's not gonna go all the way to 6,600, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if we gap down into 6,600 overnight. So I still think the 6,600 butterfly as a swing trade is pretty good. Looks like a 20 pin. Yay, Charles Payne. Wow, Home Depot got smoked today. Is it fair to say that all the short squeeze, large action for those specific stocks is over now? RGTI, Riot, MP. Oh, yeah, those are totally hosed. All right, so the cash settle price is 66.1738. So the butterfly would be like $13 if you had it on and let it cash settle. BE, let's see here. So this one actually looks pretty good. This one is holding up above the 50 simple. I mean, this is generally a spot where I like to buy, I like to buy right at the 50 simple. It's a pretty good pretty good entry point. But I mean, I just don't have a squeeze. I don't have a squeeze. I don't have any kind of buy signal other than, hey guys, it's pulled back to support. But at least this one's not getting hammered, so that's good. Let's look at Home Depot. What happened with Home Depot? So I don't sell my stocks very often, but I did sell my Lowe's stock and my Home Depot stock. I sold my Lowe's stock like right around here, which it's looking like that was a good decision. It just wasn't really doing anything for me today. One of the questions that Charles sent over to me for tomorrow was what happened to value investing? Like, is value investing dead? And um I one of the things that I wrote back is just like, I mean, why would you be a value investor when like the last, 13 years at least has just been absolutely crazy to the upside as far as like technology stocks are concerned? It's like even me when I'm looking at my stock portfolio and I have some of these names that are meant to kind of even out the stock portfolio, like you're not supposed to have all tech stocks, obviously. So I have like Walmart and Costco, and I had Lowe's until I sold it because it just wasn't doing me any good. But it's like if you look at your portfolio and it's like, okay, I've had Lowe's for like 5 years and it's only gone up like 20%, which is nothing in 5 years. And then you have, Nvidia, Microsoft, Tesla. It's like, why would you hold this, when you could buy something else? So as far as Lowe's and Home Depot are concerned, I've gone on many rants about these. I've had like so many forced remodels I've had to do at this old house that I bought. Not because I'm like, oh, I'm going to remodel my bathroom, but it's like, oh yeah, everything's flooding. So now I have to rip everything out and redo it. Um, and I have just had problem after problem after problem with both Lowe's and Home Depot. So I got mad and I sold my Lowe's stock. But um I don't know. I don't think I'm the only one. So Home Depot and Lowe's are seeing less traffic in their stores. People are delaying house projects. Well, and that's the thing is it's like the price of doing anything to your house has absolutely exploded. Like the rates that these contractors are charging are just absolutely insane. And like I got a quote for a fence for my property and they were like, "Oh yeah, it's gonna be $15,000." And I was like, "What? Like, for how long is that gonna take you? A week? You want me to pay $15,000 for a week-long project? Like, no." So, I mean, I don't know. I get it. Like, that's why I think these stocks are completely getting destroyed, and it's I don't know. I've just had bad experience after bad experience. And like I said, I'm not sitting here like, oh, I'm going to fix my house and make it better. These have been problems that I literally had to fix because of, broken house issues. And even then, it's like just working with them is just like major pain. It's like not worth the trouble at all. Yeah. So then I was like, okay, can you just do one side of the fence so the dogs won't run into the road? And the guys gave me a quote last year for $1,500, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that right now. I asked the exact same guys for the quote this year again. I was like, "Hey, can you do that fence part right there for 1,500?" And the guys were like, "Oh yeah, sorry, it's actually 3,000 now for the exact same 70 feet." I was like, "What?" You're telling me that your price has doubled in 1 year? No. No, 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 no. Anyways, if you wanna know what's happening to Home Depot and Lowe's stock, that's what's happening to it. $100 an hour, $200 an hour if you watch, $300 an hour if you help. You should have asked him for one side of the fence, the inside. Even the guys who don't know what they're doing charge you like $350. I have a great homeless guy that does wonderful work. Man. Listening to her rant about home improvement pricing concerns proves she doesn't understand inflation. Oh, I understand it. I understand it completely. I can still complain about it. But I mean, still, double in 1 year for labor costs, that's a little bit more than regular inflation. I was thinking market almost came back. I guess that's the last 5-minute sell programs must come in. Yeah, that's a 252 trade. So we basically had a reversal right off of that high tick on the day, just completely reversed. Whenever you get a high tick like that then cannot break through the overhead area of resistance and starts to reverse, especially when the vol spread shifts lower. And this was the other major kicker right here. Do you see how the VIX just continued climbing higher, continued climbing higher, continued climbing higher? Those were the main kind of tells there for that end of the day move. Yeah, double in 1 year is absurd. If it was like 20% higher, I'd be like, all right, I get it. But not double. Can you look at DLO earnings last week? Looks like a record earning. Looks like back in May, pay a special dividend of 51 cents that has upgrades to $15 or higher. Let me see. And then I'm going to have to sign off here. Okay, so we have 3 earnings beats, 6 earnings misses. However, we've had, I would say, some pretty decent reactions to earnings. You have a gap up here, gap up here, gap up here, gap up here. Those are looking pretty good, except for this most recent one. 16, they're estimated to earn 16 cents. They made 17 and then gap down 9%. I would guess that is just because of, expectations were pretty high. Let me look at it on a higher time frame chart. Let's see. Looks like that daily squeeze is firing to the downside. Yeah, I did notice that VLO and MPC look pretty good. I will trade those ones sometimes. I don't like trading them very much, but MPC is usually pretty decent to trade. So with this one, I would just say that, if it can get up above 1650, that's probably where it would start going. Let's see if it has short float. People are being ripped off. Yeah, I just don't like feeling like I'm being ripped off. Oh, and then I told the fence guys, I was like, yeah, because they wanted to build it, because they want to charge me for like 5 days of labor. And I told him, I was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna buy the fence panels already built, and then you can just take one day and install them," because it was gonna be way cheaper. And they were like, "No, no, no. We wanna build it for you right here." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sure that you do, but it's I mean, it wasn't the wood cost that doubled, you know? They were trying to say that their labor cost has doubled. Okay, so this one has short float of 14.61%. So if it gets up above 1650, maybe it can go. But this goes back to the other question, which is, are the short squeeze stocks dead? And when the short squeeze stocks roll over, especially when they break below the 50 simple, that's when they're pretty hosed because the short sellers come back in and the short sellers are making money. So like this one had a head and shoulders pattern, then that shoulder broke and it flushed lower. And so you can see here that once it breaks that shoulder and flushes lower, there's no reason to trade the short squeeze anymore because there's no more short squeeze. This is a short squeeze here. This is a short squeeze here. Once it breaks, there's just no more short squeeze. So we have to wait until this pattern sets up again. And I mean, it could be a long time before that happens. But I think that I answered all the questions. I tried to stick around and answer. I tried to stick around and answer all the questions just so I could get to everything after the close. So I don't know. We'll see if I'm doing the show tomorrow. Other than that, if you're in the trading room, I will see you in the trading room tomorrow at the close. Very nice seeing you in Orlando for the money show. Yes. Don't get on the insurance rant. We're doing a wedding and the costs have gone up 30% in the last 6 months due to tariffs. Oh no. I got away doing my wedding pretty cheap by you have to look for like a cancellation date. I think we got married on a Monday. Or was it a Sunday? If you get married on a Saturday, it's literally the most expensive day. If you can get married on like a Friday or a Monday, it's literally 1/3 of the cost. So take that tip from me. You can also find like somebody else who canceled and then you can do it, which is another reason why I got mine a lot cheaper. Because if you plan, most people plan weddings like a year or two out. I planned my wedding in 3 months and I was not pregnant, by the way. Everybody was like, shotgun wedding, or I was like, no, this is when I'm getting a deal. Duh. So there was like a cancellation and it was on a Monday and it was 1/3 of the cost. So that's my wedding money tip, Helen. Got to see you and Charles and Keith Fitz in one place. Love trading these last few days. Last few minutes has been very predictable. People are hesitant to hold overnight positions. Good night, Danielle. I just did small projects at the house, $300 for 2 hours of work. Thanks for MU. Have a good one. Monday, anybody show up? Yeah, people came. My dentist got married during lunch break. I got married for $100. Cost of mail order husbands has gone way up. I got married on Easter Monday. Yeah, I mean, I know it's not ideal, but it's also like it's cheaper. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. If you want to check out the link to the trading room, I'll go ahead and post it below. And for those of you who are interested in joining, I'm usually in the trading room. I'm usually in there 3 times a week, sometimes 4. Obviously there's going to be some times where I'm sick or whatever, where I'm not in the trading room. Last week I was super sick. So I was not in the trading room last week and I didn't really post anything on social media or anything either. But normally you can find me there, 3 times a week. So yeah. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Mechanics are doing the same thing, $90 an hour to $200 an hour. Yeah, it's crazy. Thanks for being here. Appreciate your insight. Yeah, I mean, you pretty much just have to learn to do most things yourself these days, is what I'm finding. So, hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you on the live stream next Tuesday. I usually do the live stream every Tuesday. I'm gonna be taking off a week when my sister has her baby in like 2 weeks, maybe, or maybe 3 weeks, but we'll see.